You sit alone in a quiet room, no phone, no music, just silence, asterisk, but somehow the silence isn't quiet at all, asterisk. There's a voice speaking to you, not from the outside, but from deep within. It tells you you're not enough, that you should have done more today, that you always mess things up, that people are probably tired of you by now, asterisk, and yet do obey it. You let it dictate how you feel, how you walk, how you interact, how you sleep, asterisk, but have you ever asked whose voice is that? Really, asterisk, is it yours? Or did it slip into your mind like a parasite while you weren't paying attention? Asterisk, because here's the terrifying truth. Most people live their entire lives listening to an inner voice that doesn't belong to them, asterisk, it sounds like them. It speaks in their tone. It uses memories they actually experienced. But it says things they never consciously chose to believe, asterisk, so where did it come from? Asterisk, is your inner voice a reflection of your true self or a carefully assembled machine built from childhood wounds, external judgments, societal commands, and fears you were too young to understand? Asterisk, what if the voice you hear in your head is actually a weapon someone else programmed? That would mean your confidence isn't really yours, your self-hatred. Not natural, asterisk, your shame. Installed, asterisk, and the script you're living, the overthinking, the anxiety, the need to please, the constant guilt. None of that belongs to you either, asterisk, so who are you beneath that voice? Asterisk, can you even imagine your mind without it? Asterisk, would there be peace? Or just more confusion? Asterisk, you see? The real problem isn't that we have thoughts, asterisk, it's that we believe them, asterisk, we trust that voice like it's a prophet, as if it knows some deeper truth about us, asterisk, but what if that voice is just noise? A confused echo of 1,000 other people's expectations bouncing inside a hollow chamber? Asterisk, why do you flinch when you're alone with yourself? Asterisk, why does your inner voice always take the side of your enemies? Asterisk, why does it sound more like a judge than a friend? Asterisk, these aren't just passing curiosities, they are the clues to a deeper trap. Asterisk, trap where your own mind becomes your prison guard. Asterisk, where your freedom was taken not by chains, but by whispered lies in your own accent. Asterisk, and if you're not the one speaking in your mind, then who is? Asterisk, the answer is buried in layers, layers made of memory, trauma, imitation, and fear. Asterisk, peel them back, and you might find a version of you that's been silent for years, not because it didn't exist, but because it was never allowed to speak, asterisk, but before we can uncover that version, asterisk, before you can reclaim your own voice, you need to understand one brutal, inconvenient truth. You were taught to think against yourself, asterisk, and the worst part? You thank them for it. Let's go deeper, asterisk. The first time you heard that voice in your head, you didn't even realize it was there, asterisk, you were a child, wide-eyed, full of questions, still unformed, asterisk, and then came the adults, the teachers, the parents, the strangers, the systems, asterisk, they spoke, and the voice inside you learned, asterisk, at first. Your mind was a blank slate, a mirror reflecting what others placed in front of it. Asterisk, when someone called you lazy, that label didn't float away. It carved itself into your self-image. Asterisk, when someone told you to be realistic, your dreams quietly shrunk without you noticing. Asterisk, and when you felt pain but were told to stop crying, you learned to mistrust your own emotions. Asterisk, slowly. Your mind was colonized. Asterisk, your voice, once raw, curious, and wild, became an obedient echo of everyone else's fears. Asterisk. But here's the twist. The voice didn't take over all at once. It mimicked, copied, and adapted so well that by the time you were a teenager, you no longer questioned where it came from. Asterisk, you just assumed. This is who I am, but it's not, Carl Jung once said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This inner voice isn't fate. It's a program. Asterisk, one you didn't design. One you didn't approve. One that was installed while you were too young to protect yourself. Think about it. Asterisk, who taught you what was possible? Asterisk, who told you what you were worth? Asterisk, who gave you the rules of what's good or bad, right or wrong, enough or not enough. You didn't choose those scripts, you just internalized them because fitting in meant survival, asterisk, as children. We're not logical, we're loyal, asterisk, we'd rather believe I'm bad than believe my caregivers are incapable of loving me properly. We'd rather blame ourselves than accept that the world is unfair. So we twist the truth until it hurts, and we call that twisted truth our personality, asterisk. But the pain didn't end there, asterisk. Over time, the voice in your head started to police. It told you to shrink when you wanted to expand, to apologize when you hadn't done anything wrong, asterisk, to settle when you wanted to chase something wild. And worst of all, it disguised fear as logic. This is too risky, asterisk. You'll probably fail, asterisk. People will judge you. Asterisk, you're not ready yet, asterisk. You've always been like this. Asterisk, this is just how you are. But none of those were facts. They were inherited sentences, passed down like family heirlooms, only made of shame. So here's the real question. How much of your suffering is self-inflicted? Asterisk, because you believed a voice that was never yours? Friedrich Nietzsche warned of this when he wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." Asterisk, that voice? It's the tribe inside your skull, asterisk. Productivity is measured in busyness. Success is defined by how much noise you generate. Even healing has become a competitive sport. Another thing to optimize. Asterisk, in a world that moves too fast to feel, chaos becomes the only language we understand, asterisk. So when someone says, just relax, it sounds like nonsense. When someone says, you need to slow down, you feel threatened. When peace finally arrives, you don't trust it. Asterisk, this isn't a flaw. This is conditioning. Asterisk, and the worst part? You begin to mistake the symptoms for your personality. You think you're just anxious. Asterisk, you think you're just dramatic. Asterisk, you say things like, I work best under pressure, or I don't know how to rest, as if these are charming quirks. Not cries for help, but at the philosophical core, this goes deeper than psychology. It reaches into how we define meaning itself. Asterisk, Nietzsche, the prophet of existential discomfort, once said, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. And here lies the trap. If you believe suffering is where meaning is found, then chaos becomes the birthplace of identity. Asterisk, peace becomes emptiness. Asterisk, and stillness becomes death. Asterisk, you cling to the chaos, not because you want pain, but because without it, you fear you'll be nothing. Asterisk, in your moments of deepest stillness, you may hear the whisper, who am I if I'm not fixing, fighting, or fearing something? Asterisk, this is the existential anxiety Sartre spoke of. He called it nausea, the raw confrontation with freedom, with formlessness. The moment where your identity slips through your fingers and you're forced to confront the absurdity of it all. Chaos distracts from that confrontation. It gives you something to do, something to fight, something to fear. And that something becomes your anchor. So we become a society of chaos chasers. We create emergencies out of boredom. We ignite conflict to feel connection. We stir drama to avoid depth. Asterisk, and slowly, chaos stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like you. You normalize it, and in that normalization, you miss the most tragic truth of all. You were never meant to live this way. Your nervous system wasn't built to be constantly activated. Your soul wasn't meant to be at war with itself. Your spirit wasn't designed to only come alive through destruction. Asterisk, but how would you know? Asterisk, when every movie, every news cycle, every social feed screams urgency and catastrophe. How do you learn the language of calm? Asterisk, how do you trust peace when it feels like surrender? Asterisk, how do you reclaim yourself from an addiction that society keeps feeding? There's an answer, but it isn't easy. It demands you do something almost no one is willing to do. Break the contract with chaos. But before you can do that, you must first see what that chaos is doing to you. Asterisk, not just mentally or emotionally, but neurologically, physically, spiritually, because the cost of chaos is greater than you think, and it's being paid. Every day you don't even realize you're still caught in the loop. Asterisk, it starts small. Asterisk, a missed call you didn't return. A night where your mind wouldn't quiet. A simple choice scroll instead of sleep. Asterisk, you brush it off. Everyone does this. You tell yourself, no big deal. Asterisk, but slowly. The lines blur between a bad habit and a way of life. Asterisk, between occasional overwhelm and permanent overstimulation. Asterisk, between reacting to chaos and needing it to feel something. Asterisk, because when the brain is constantly bombarded by noise, it forgets what silence feels like. Asterisk, and when the nervous system is always on edge, it begins to rewire itself expecting tension, even when none exists. Asterisk, you wake up exhausted. Even after sleep, you feel alone. Even when surrounded, you're chasing rest, but rest feels foreign. Asterisk, you're craving peace. But peace feels unsafe. Asterisk, that's the first consequence of chaos addiction. Disconnection from reality. Asterisk, not the physical world. You still go to work, pay bills, smile when you're supposed to. But emotionally, spiritually, you become a ghost in your own life. Your attention fractures, your memory slips, your joy dulls, and your ability to feel deeply real intimacy, real presence, real awe fades like a radio signal in a storm. Asterisk, because chaos numbs you, slowly, quietly, expertly. Asterisk, your brain's reward system, its dopamine circuitry starts firing only when urgency appears. You begin needing conflict to feel alive, and everything else boring, flat, unimportant. Asterisk, you can't read a full page of a book without reaching for your phone. Asterisk, you can't sit in silence for 30 seconds without your leg bouncing. Asterisk, you can't finish a task without opening 5 new tabs. Asterisk, that voice will not let go easily. Asterisk, but what if you stopped obeying it? Asterisk, what if, for once, you listened to the other voice? The quieter one. The one that only speaks in rare moments of clarity? You know the one? The one that says, asterisk, you deserve more. Asterisk, you've always known. Asterisk, this isn't the end. Asterisk, that voice may be faint now, but it's real. And it's been waiting. Waiting for the moment you finally say, enough. But how do you even begin to challenge the only voice you've ever known? Let's find out. It doesn't happen with lightning. There's no trumpet of awakening. Sometimes it's just a subtle pause. A single moment where you hear that inner voice whisper the usual insult, and instead of obeying it, you pause. That pause is sacred. It's the beginning of rebellion, because questioning the voice you've trusted all your life is not small. It's a psychological earthquake. What if I've been wrong about myself? That question is terrifying, because once you ask it, the entire structure of your identity starts to tremble. Asterisk. You start seeing things differently. Asterisk. The way you lower your voice in a room full of loud people. Asterisk, the way you apologize before you speak your truth, the way you rehearse conversations before you have them, just to avoid being misunderstood. All of it starts to look less like personality and more like survival. So you start peeling back the layers. Asterisk, and underneath the noise, you find fragments, pieces of a version of you that existed before the conditioning. Asterisk. Before you were told who you had to be, the rebellion doesn't begin with rage. It begins with curiosity. You begin to ask, why do I believe I'm not enough? Asterisk, who benefits when I stay small? Asterisk, what if confidence is not arrogance but alignment? Asterisk, what if the truth is, I've always been more than they said I was? Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps, once wrote, greater than between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is where the voice loses power. And in that space, something new can grow, your real voice, not the inner critic, not the wounded child, asterisk, not the echo of your parents, but you, the voice that doesn't apologize for existing. And here's the plot twist. That real voice. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shame you. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't compare you to anyone else. Asterisk, it speaks in calm certainty, not panic. It feels like a return, not a performance. And when it speaks, you feel something you haven't felt in years. Clarity. You realize that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world convinced you to forget. Asterisk, The false voice kept you caged because it convinced you that change meant danger, asterisk, but now you start rewriting the rules. You say no when you mean no and don't flinch afterward, asterisk. You rest without guilt, you speak without rehearsing, you stand without shrinking, asterisk. You begin to trust yourself without external validation, asterisk, and it confuses people, because the version of you they knew was smaller, more obedient, more palatable, but you're done pleasing their expectations, asterisk, because you've realized peace is more important than approval. This is the quiet revolution, not loud rebellion, but radical self-trust. You become selective with your energy. You stop entertaining guilt that was never yours, asterisk. You begin to protect your inner world as fiercely as you once protected your public image, asterisk, and slowly people around you start reacting, asterisk. Some feel threatened, some fall away, some call you distant, but that's okay. Because this new version of you isn't performing anymore, it's existing. You stop asking, do they like me? Asterisk, and start asking, do I even like being in this room? That's power, that's sovereignty, asterisk, and once you taste it, you can't go back. But it's not all sunshine and clarity. There's grief too, asterisk, because you realize how many years you lost trying to be someone you never were, asterisk. You mourn the younger version of yourself who didn't know better, asterisk. You carry the pain of the silence, the self-abandonment, the fake smiles, asterisk. But here's the thing, that grief is proof that you're finally awake, because numbness is the price of suppression, asterisk. But pain, when it's real, is a doorway to rebirth. You're not broken, you're becoming, asterisk. This is the middle of the story, where the hero turns back to face the shadows, not with fear, but with truth. You no longer run from the voice, you challenge it, asterisk. You meet every "you're not enough" with asterisk greater than says who. You meet every guilt trip with greater than that's not mine to carry. You meet every old program with greater than I'm rewriting this, asterisk, and that's how you begin to reclaim your life, not all at once, but moment by moment, thought by thought, voice by voice, asterisk. But now you're ready for the final key, the deepest truth that flips everything upside down. Because while you've been at war with this voice your whole life, asterisk, there's one final twist that no one talks about. The voice was never your enemy. It was something else entirely. Let's uncover it. You spent years running from it, fighting it, trying to silence it, asterisk. That voice in your head, the critic, the cynic, the doubter, the one that told you to play small, to apologize, to shut up before you got hurt. You thought it was your enemy, but what if it wasn't? Asterisk, what if that voice wasn't trying to destroy you, asterisk, but protect you? Not protect your growth, but your survival, asterisk. You see, the harsh inner voice, the one you blamed, the one you resented, was born in chaos, asterisk. It emerged the day you experienced pain and had no power to stop it, so your mind adapted. It created a defense mechanism, asterisk. Now you're ready to meet the you who lives on the other side of noise. The you who doesn't need a crisis to feel worthy, asterisk. The you who can rest without guilt. The you who can love without rescuing. The you who can exist without escaping. Asterisk. This is not the end of the rebellion. It's the beginning of your return. And if you're willing to go just a little further, asterisk, you might discover a truth so deep, so liberating, that everything, every breakdown, every addiction, every storm will finally make sense, asterisk. Are you ready? You were never broken. You were overstimulated, underheard, and misunderstood, asterisk. You weren't born addicted to chaos. You were born open, wide-eyed, vulnerable, ready to feel everything. But the world handed you noise and told you to survive in it, and so you did. But now, after all the panic, the collapse, the cycles, you're standing on the other side, blinking in the strange light of stillness, asterisk. And here's the final, most powerful realization, asterisk. The chaos wasn't the enemy. It was the teacher. It showed you every place you didn't trust yourself, every wound you tried to outrun, every identity you borrowed to feel safe. It was never about the arguments, the overthinking, the constant stimulation, asterisk. It was always about a deeper question, echoing through your bones, asterisk. Who am I when there is no crisis left to fix? That question doesn't haunt you anymore. It awakens you. Asterisk, because here's the truth you were never told. Asterisk, greater than your soul was not made for endless survival. It was made for creation. Asterisk, not just productivity, not just routine, not just balance. Creation, the conscious building of a life you don't need to escape from. Asterisk, a life with space for slowness, for mystery, for stillness so profound it becomes a mirror reflecting the real you beneath all the coping, all the chaos, all the noise. Asterisk, and now that reflection is becoming clear. Asterisk, you see that all your so-called flaws, your hypervigilance, your overthinking, your need to control were never flaws at all. Asterisk. They were brilliant adaptations in a world that taught you peace was dangerous. Asterisk, you don't need to shame yourself anymore. Asterisk. You don't need to apologize for how you survived. Asterisk, but you also don't need to keep surviving. Now you get to live, and living looks different. Asterisk, it's not glamorous. It's not always aesthetic. Asterisk, it's raw. It's simple. It's sacred. It looks like waking up and not needing to check your phone, like eating without rushing. Asterisk, like breathing and actually feeling the breath. It looks like setting boundaries without drama, like sitting with discomfort without making it into a movie. Asterisk, like finally realizing you don't have to earn rest. Asterisk, because the final illusion that chaos kept you from seeing was this. Asterisk, you are enough without the noise. Asterisk, not when you're perfect, not when you're healed, not when you've mastered the algorithm of life. Asterisk, now, in this moment, exactly as you are. Asterisk, you don't need the chaos anymore because you've found something deeper, inner authority, the ability to choose your response. Asterisk, the power to direct your energy. Asterisk, the awareness to know when something serves your truth or silences it. Asterisk, you don't need to react. You don't need to perform. You don't need to prove. You can simply be. And in that being, in that space of quiet aliveness, you meet yourself fully for the first time. This is what the philosophers and mystics always pointed toward. Nietzsche called it becoming the Bermensch, the higher self, who creates values from within rather than obeying inherited ones. Asterisk, Jung called it individuation, the lifelong journey of integrating the conscious and unconscious self. Asterisk, Frankl called it meaning the defiant search for purpose in the face of suffering. Asterisk, and all of them were saying the same thing. You are not here to be a puppet pulled by unseen strings of chaos. You are here to wake up. To see the pattern, to feel the pain, to break the loop, to reclaim your authorship. Asterisk. Because the moment you stop needing chaos to feel alive is the moment you start choosing life on your terms. Asterisk, you become the stillness in the storm, not because you avoid it, but because you've been through enough to no longer fear it. Asterisk, that's not weakness. That's power, real power, the kind that doesn't need to yell or fix or perform. Asterisk, the kind that simply is unshaken, rooted, awake. Asterisk, so the next time the world tries to pull you back into its rhythm of noise, ask yourself, asterisk, is this chaos calling me home? Asterisk, or is it trying to make me forget I already am home? Asterisk, the next time you feel that itch for stimulation, that craving for conflict, that urge to scroll, shout, or run, pause, close your eyes, breathe, and whisper to yourself, I don't need this anymore. Because you don't, not anymore. Asterisk. The addiction is broken, the war is over, and in the quiet that follows, you'll find something that chaos could never give you. Asterisk. Peace that doesn't depend on the world being different. Joy that doesn't need to be earned. Wholeness that was never missing, just buried under the noise. You are here, you are whole, you are free.